Hey everybody, this is Navia for those who know me and don't know me again. I decided that I was going to start doing YouTube videos to kind of talk about my journey, spread some light on some things that I have been dealing with and processing with that I feel like just need to be talked about more and addressed more. I put out my hat line by faith. And so I'm sure people were like, well, where that came from? And so I decided, well, the first thing I do was just do a YouTube video to kind of explain to everybody where by faith came from, where I got the concept from, why it's even relevant to me or important to me. So here we go. Just bear with me, y'all, because this is my first time doing a YouTube video. And this is also my first time sharing my story kind of with everybody. It started a long time ago. I've been dealing with anxiety for a very long time. And it's something that has just been difficult. I mean, it's just been really hard. Like, anxiety is no joke. And there have been times where anxiety would kind of turn into depression and then go back to anxiety. I mean, like, just back and forth. But for the most part, it's an issue with anxiety. And so I've been dealing with that for at least the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so. And being a Christian, dealing with anxiety and mental health is extremely difficult because I have, one world telling me that, oh, you just need to pray about it. You need to fast about it. You don't have enough faith. You need to, figure out what your spiritual issue is, And then I got another world that's like, oh, it's not a spiritual issue, it's a physical issue. And, there is things that show that the brain kind of can get stuck, and when you have certain childhood experiences can lead to anxiety and all these other things. And I'm just like trying to play tug of war about, well, what do I lie as somebody who is a Christian and really upholds her Christian values, and then somebody who works in mental health, is a therapist, and trying to figure it out for herself as well. And so I've struggled a lot with trying to find my way. I mean, I prayed, I fasted, I've done all the things that, the church community tell you to do. I even tried it the physical way, and, I'm gonna not eat this. I even considered, like, I'm so anti sometimes medication. Just depends on the situation, because I do feel like people take medication a lot without doing therapy, and you need both. But I even took that route. That wasn't for me. That didn't help me. And just kind of was, okay, Lord, why is this my issue? Why can't I shake this? Like, do I not have enough faith? Is it my fault? What did I do? What sin have I committed? Just all these different things, is trying to figure out, like, why can't I shake this? What is the issue? And then it was like a couple years ago, I think I went on this retreat, and it was just kind of talking about how there's just so many levels to things that we deal with in this world, because we do live in a fallen world. And so things aren't perfect, and as a result, things like mental health exist, physical health issues, just different things, they exist. And so I honestly just came to the conclusion that I feel like it's a spiritual and a physical issue. And that for me, I've decided to take both routes at addressing the anxiety. I've decided to really allow my relationship with Christ to be the driving force in how I deal with it, and focus on Him and lean on Him. But I've also decided to do what they tell us to do in therapy world. As a therapist, I tell my clients all the time, like, are you eating too much sugar? Do you exercise? Just all the things that play a role when you deal with anxiety. I've decided that it's important to merge those worlds together and stop acting like they're two separate entities, because God created this body. And this body does not always function properly, especially when you have certain childhood experiences. If you've had trauma in your life, just different things can display themselves differently. And also, God gave me Jesus. And so he is the one that I can rely on, I can trust in, I can run to when it's difficult, when it's hard. And so that's kind of where I am. So last year, 2019, was extremely difficult for me. I mean, Lord Jesus, I don't even know where to start. I don't know. It was hard though. Like, it was really, really hard. I mean, having issues with my anxiety causing me to kind of job hop, go from job to job, to it played a huge role in my marriage with my anxiety. I mean, just anything you could possibly think of that it could have played a role in, it played a role in. And it led to some depression. I mean, it just led to a lot of things. And so it was in December when I kind of had some alone time and it was just me. I was reading my Bible, and for whatever reason, I was reading Hebrews, and when I got to chapter 11, I got stuck. I got stuck at chapter 11. And so chapter 11 is the Hall of Fame chapter where, you know, the writer of Hebrews kind of goes through those individuals who are like, they did it. You know what I mean? They were the examples of this is what faith looks like. And so as you're reading that chapter, the author kind of starts, by faith, this person did this. So by faith, Abraham did this. By faith, Moses did this. By faith, Rahab did this. By faith, you know, so it was just a by faith. These people trusted in God, and though not all of them saw, you know, what God had promised to them while they were there on earth, they still believed. They still trusted in him. They still rested in him. And so I was like, man, it just did something to my soul, and it just kind of awakened something in me. Like, by faith, I have to trust Jesus when it comes to this anxiety. By faith, I have to trust that A, he can heal me if he wants to. By faith, I have to trust that B, I'm not in this alone. By faith, I have to trust that C, he has given me tools on this earth to use to help me through this journey, to help me through this process. I do go to therapy. Yes, I'm a therapist who has a therapist. I believe that if you are a therapist, you should have a therapist, because it's hard to help people process their own stuff and then go home and have to deal with your own stuff as well. So that's just a plug. I just feel like if you work in mental health, period, you should be the example and you should have a therapist. So I do have a therapist again. And so I went and got a therapist actually 2020 January. And then by faith, D is like, even if I have to deal with this until Christ returns or I leave this earth, that does not mean that, I mean, I've heard everything, y'all, from you're not really, if you deal with anxiety or depression, you can't be saved. I mean, just stuff that would just have you questioning your entire existence, your entire salvation, God, people, I mean, like, everything. My eyes are watering because I'm like, that was difficult to have to tell, you know, people tell you like, yo, you shouldn't be dealing with that. Yo, you shouldn't be experiencing that. And I'm like, well, what's the difference between the person who has diabetes or cancer or whatever? Like, yeah, they're believing that God can heal them, and he does for some, and he doesn't for some, and that still doesn't mean that he's not good, and it still doesn't mean that they did not have enough faith, and it still doesn't mean that he doesn't love them, and it still doesn't mean that they weren't saved. Okay, so, you know, we have to do a better job as a church and how we address mental health, which is my whole reasoning for starting By Faith, my whole reason for even putting my story out there, putting my journey out there, is because I feel like I needed to be an advocate for people who are Christians, who are in the church and are scared to death to tell people that they're struggling. Because you don't want to be judged. You don't want people questioning your salvation. You don't want to be vulnerable, because, you know, a lot of us just feel like we got to walk around like everything's okay and everything is great and life isn't life and things aren't happening. And that's just not, that ain't life. That ain't how we rolling over here. Like, we dealing with some real stuff, and you just need to be honest about it. So that's why I decided, like, yo, it's time for me to share my story. And there'll be different aspects of my story that I share along the way as I kind of put these YouTube videos out here. I also have a blog that I'll be writing and kind of talking about different things. And I just was like, I can't keep making excuses, because for the longest I thought, well, I'm still in this. Like, I haven't overcome this yet. I shouldn't be talking about it. I shouldn't be, you know, I need to wait until I'm better, and this is not an issue for me before I put myself out there. But I was reminded, like, that's just not reality. You know what I mean? People struggle. Nobody's going to be perfect. And if we waited on people to be perfect before we talked about our issues or encouraged people, then there would be nobody encouraging anybody. So I was like, okay, we're just going to take this leap of faith. We're just going to do it. And so I just was like, I just started running. I just literally started running with it. Which is why I was like, the first thing I want to do is create something tangible to show, like, I'm doing this. God is doing this in me, and he is going to help me through this. And I just felt like, how else can I do it other than by faith? And I'm not going to sit here and tell y'all like 2020 hasn't started off with bangs, because it definitely has been a journey. It is just February, and I'm like, oh, Lord. Like, I know when I came up with by faith, I'm like, Lord, I just meant that for my anxiety. But he like, nah, that's in all areas of life. So, yeah, I'm just like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. Created the website to sell the hat. I'll be blogging about just different processes and journeys and things I've done and what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, things I've experienced. And I'll be YouTubing different stuff as well. But I feel like we have to have the conversation. I can recall, I don't know, it was a few months ago, and I honestly didn't know the pastor, but I know it was a pastor who had committed suicide. And it broke my soul, because I knew there was about to be this whole dialogue of like, was he saved? Was he not? Why would he do that? What would make somebody just decide they want to take their life? And just even from a non-Christian perspective, like, well, your God can't be that good if you want to take your life. I mean, my heart broke, because I knew, like, this man's death is about to be just taken to a whole nother place, and his family is not going to even be able to mourn him properly because all the things that people are about to start saying. And so I actually had a conference that I was supposed to speak at that week and do like a little small group thing. And I was just dreading. I didn't want to do it. And I had actually thought about quitting and like calling her like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. But when that happened, I was reminded, like, yo, we have to have this conversation. Somebody has to start a conversation. And the fact that that particular church had asked to have a segment on mental health, I was like, I have to be there, even though nothing in my soul wants to do this, because I was just broken. I mean, it hit me like I knew him, and I didn't even know who the man was, because I know what it feels like to be just overwhelmed and just like irritated and frustrated and just mad, because you're like, why can't I stop feeling this way? And I think for him, he dealt with depression, and I can just, only imagine. But there are times when you just feel like anything else is better than dealing with this. But by God's grace, I was able to press through when I had those really difficult moments, because you can get really low. You can get really tired and really frustrated, and the devil can really, really do his job, y'all, really well. But to just have to realize, like, God is greater. In the moments where my anxiety is at 10, God is good. In the moments where it's at 2, God is good. And to kind of rest and that, like, nothing can separate me from his love, like, even my anxiety. Because there were times when I was like, Lord, you don't love me. Like, you can't. You can't if you're letting me deal with this. Like, no. But to be reminded, like, yo, nothing can separate you from his love. Absolutely nothing. No matter what they tell you. And I'm not, sidebar, I'm not talking about going out there sinning and doing whatever. I'm just having a regular conversation. But, like, I'm secured in that. And for the longest time, y'all, I struggled so bad with just questioning my salvation and questioning my eternity and questioning who I was in Christ because of anxiety. Like, it just about took me out because it was just difficult. And it was really, really hard to endure. And I'm not going to sit here and tell y'all, like, there are days where I still struggle. Like this week. Okay? But I'm reminded that I'm not alone. And there was one particular song that kind of explained it kind of just put everything in perspective for me. It was the Natalie, I'm sorry, I keep playing with my hair, but it's kind of getting on my nerves. It was the Natalie Grant song, where she pretty much, this is my sum up version, she pretty much is like, I'll keep praying that you heal me, but even if you don't, it's okay too. I'll keep trusting, I'll keep believing, I'll keep resting in your ability to do it. But God, it is ultimately your decision, and I rest in that. And I also know that when those moments come, I'm not by myself. Like, I'm not alone. And that just kind of was like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say that I haven't been able to say. Like, that put it in words for me and put it in perspective for me, because I always felt like it had to be one or the other. Like, it had to be, Lord, you gonna heal me or you ain't. Okay? It wasn't me just taking rest in the fact that, yo, I can pray and trust and believe, but I can still have joy even if he doesn't. And I think it's so important who you have around you, because there was a time when I had people around me who just didn't get it. And I really can't expect you to get it if you haven't lived it, you haven't been through it. But it is just the worst thing ever when you're struggling for people to tell you you don't have enough faith. Like, we have got to stop saying that, y'all. Like, please stop telling people that. Oh, she died because she didn't, like, stop it. Stop it. If God chose to heal her, he would have. He didn't. That was his will, unfortunately. And us as humans, we have to be okay with certain things. Like, but to tell somebody's family members they didn't have enough faith, their family didn't have enough. I mean, it's just, please stop that narrative. Like, Lord, that narrative just really worked. It tore me up. And it was really, really hard to deal with. But I had to just come to my own conclusion for myself through prayer and fasting and just seeking Jesus on my own, and just, asking him, like, what was he telling me in this process? Lord, what are you trying to get me to see in this journey? And I do feel like it was a lot of spiritual components to it, my anxiety, but it was a lot of physical components to my anxiety. And in my next video, I'll talk about what those spiritual components were and what those physical components were, of where I feel like my anxiety came from, where it stemmed from, why it's still relevant in my world. But I'm a strong believer, and I'll advocate to the depth of me that it's both. because we are spiritual beings, and we are also physical. We have physical bodies. So I feel like we can't always separate the two, as we often in Christianity try really, really hard to separate Christ from other avenues when he's in everything, and he created this body. And because we live in a fallen world, you know, and life is life, and things happen, and people have certain childhoods and have certain traumas and experience certain things, you know, those things do, there's research that it does alter the brain, you know, and it can cause anxiety and depression and PTSD and OC. I mean, just the list is long. But there's also the spiritual component in that the enemy is real, and he works overtime. He knows those childhood experiences that you experienced, and he knows, you know, what your issues are, and he uses them against you all the time. Okay, so it's a fight regardless. It's a fight whether it's physical. It's a fight whether it's spiritual. It's a fight regardless, and ultimately, I'm not in the ring by myself. You know what I mean? Like, God is fighting these battles with me, and even on a day where I feel like I'm losing, I'm not losing, because there is no losing in him. But I have to rest in that, and I am not going to sit here and tell y'all that has been an easy journey for me. Just like, oh, this is what it is. I'm okay. I'm just gone. You know, no, that has not been my reality. That is just something that I have just kind of picked up the last few months or so through being in a different community, being in a different church, being around different people, having a husband who tells me what I need to hear and what I don't need to hear a lot of times. I mean, it's just been different things that have helped me through this journey. And like I said, I started therapy in January, and I've been in therapy before, y'all. Like, I just have through this process. I've been in therapy before, but I never really was committed to the process because I was going through that whole, you know, is it spiritual? Is it physical? If it's spiritual, do I need to go to therapy? I mean, I was just going through all of that. So I never really fully committed to therapy because I felt like, well, if I go to therapy, then that means that I'm saying that Jesus can't help me because of just all the rhetoric I was hearing. And that's not true. You know, when I went to the PIA tour and I saw that hoodie that said Jesus in therapy, I didn't want to spend $50 on it, but I did because it was just like, yo, this is my life. Like, Jesus in therapy. Like, you can do both, and it's okay. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't do both. Don't let anybody try to make you feel like it has to be one or the other, because Jesus puts people in our life to help us process, to help us understand, to help us connect the dots, to help us see things in a way that we wouldn't see it by ourselves. But ultimately, I know my therapist cannot heal me. Ultimately, I know that my therapist is just a tool and an avenue. Ultimately, I know that it's Christ and Christ alone. You know what I mean? I know that, but that does not mean that I can't go to therapy. That does not mean that I cannot work out or do things to help me feel better. You know, he tells us to do both. He wants you to do both. Like, you're not just a spirit being. You have a body that you have to take care of and that you're responsible for. And your brain is connected to your body. So we have to stop doing that. Like, please hear my cry. I'm laughing, but I'm so serious. Like, we have to do a better job at how we come at people. Like, it's a touchy subject. It's not hard to talk about. Like, y'all, this took me, I was supposed to do this video weeks ago, and I just I'm super shy. I don't know whether y'all know that or not. But I just didn't want to talk about it. And I never wanted people to know my struggles. I've always felt like I got to be strong and I got to present well. But that is not how people are touched. That is not how people are encouraged. That's not how it goes. And I've been really, really, really tasked in my heart with being honest about my journey and about my process and about where I am and about what I'm trying to do. And so this video has already been kind of long, but that's the gist of By Faith. Like I said, you'll hear more from me about this process and this journey. I did want to do like some type of giveaway. So if you watch this video on YouTube and you comment below, I'm going to pick some random person, if you haven't already bought a hat, and send you a hat. So what I'll do is once I pick the random person, I'll reach out to you on email. So you'll need to leave your email address and let you know that you won the hat, and then I'll send it to you for free. Don't have to pay for the hat, won't have to pay for shipping. It'll just be my way of trying to encourage somebody, like whatever it is. I don't care if it's mental health or not, anxiety or not, like whatever it is, like by faith, you can keep pushing and you can keep going. So I hope that you guys will rock with me on this journey. If you have any questions about anything, please reach out. My email address is allthingsrightbyfaith@gmail.com. I'm just one of those people where I feel like I want to help anybody move forward, press through, answer any questions about anything. And I'm willing to do that. So if you want to know something, got a question about something, just hit me up. I'm pretty much an open book at this point in my life. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.